According to Title 19 NYCRR Part 182, which of the following is not a requirement for a notary public when performing a notarial act? To help us answer this question, let's have a look at a few sections from the Notary Public License Law, starting with 182.3. And it states here, if we jump to subsection 3 for the purpose of this question, that notaries public are required to obtain the personal appearance of all parties to any transaction for which a notarial act is required for the duration of any such transaction. As well, if we have a look at 182.5, entitled Satisfactory Evidence of Identity, you can see here that there are various means for a notary public to identify a signor, one of which, for example, is the presentation of the back and front of an identification card. There's also attestation by the notary that the individual is personally known to them. There's oath or affirmation of a witness, etc. So with this in mind, let's have a look at our 4 choices to determine our solution. Choice A states, the individual must physically appear before the notary public. Well, as we read before, that indeed is a requirement. It's worth noting that if we were dealing with a remote electronic notarization, then that would be a different story, but the question does not state that that's what we're dealing with here, and therefore we cannot make that assumption, and as a result, choice A is not the correct solution. Choice B states the notary public must determine, either from personal knowledge or from satisfactory evidence, that the individual appearing before them is the person whose true signature is on the document. Now, this is precisely what the notary public must do, as we read from the law before, either through personal knowledge or satisfactory evidence. And therefore, because choice B is a requirement, it is therefore not our solution, because we're looking for what's not a requirement. Choice C states the notary public must complete a notarial certificate if required by law. This also is a requirement of the notary public in cases where notarial certificates are required. Obviously, if it's dealing with a matter where a certificate is not required, then the notary would not need to complete a notarial certificate. But if yes, required by law, then the notary public would have to do so, and therefore choice C is not the correct solution, which leaves by process of elimination choice D. But let's have a look just to be certain. Choice D states the notary public must personally know the individual in order to notarize the document. Well, as we read before, personal knowledge by the notary public is one means of satisfactory evidence of identity of the signer, but not the only means. There are other ways of identifying a signer. So therefore, this is not a requirement for a notary public exclusively in order to notarize a document. And therefore, choice D, the notary public must personally know the individual in order to notarize the document, is the correct solution.